The stars had always been silent. For thousands of years, humans looked up at the night sky and wondered if anyone was out there. They sent radio signals into the darkness. They built giant telescopes. They searched and searched, but the universe gave them nothing back, just silence. Until now. It was a normal Tuesday morning at the Deep Space Monitoring Center in South Korea. The building sat on top of a mountain, far away from the city lights. Inside, dozens of screens showed data from space. Numbers and waves moved across the displays like heartbeats from distant stars. Tae-ho Shin was drinking his third cup of coffee when his computer made a strange sound. He was 50 years old and had worked at the center for 20 years. He had heard many sounds from his machines, but this one was different. He put down his coffee and looked at the screen. The signal was strong, very strong, and it was not random noise. There was a pattern, a clear, repeating pattern. His hands began to shake. He called his supervisor. Then his supervisor called the director. Within 1 hour, the small monitoring station became the most important place on Earth. The same signal was detected in Norway and Brazil at almost the same time. Scientists around the world began talking to each other through secure channels. They compared their data. They checked their equipment. They looked for mistakes. There were no mistakes. Something out there was talking to Earth. Far above the planet, at a point in space where the gravity of Earth and the Sun balanced perfectly, there was a station. It was called Earth Orbital Control, or EOC. This was humanity's eyes and ears in space. From here, they watched everything that moved in the solar system. Director Yoona Park stood in the main control room. She was 52 years old with gray hair that she kept short. Her face was calm, but her mind was racing. She had spent her entire career preparing for a moment like this. Now it was here, and she felt both excited and afraid. The message from the alien ship had been translated by computers. It took only a few hours. The aliens, it seemed, wanted to be understood. Yoona read the translation on her screen. The message was polite on the surface, but its meaning was clear. A group called the Velori Collective was offering Earth their protection. In exchange, humans would provide resources and labor. The message spoke of partnership, but the words felt like chains. Tae-ho Shin had been brought up to the station by fast shuttle. He stood beside the director now, reading the same words. "They think we are children," he said quietly. Yoona nodded. "They have done this before, many times probably. They find young species, they make offers that sound generous, and those species have no choice but to accept." "Do we have a choice?" Tae-ho asked. Yoona looked at him, her eyes were hard. "We always have a choice." She walked to the communication console. Around her, dozens of officers worked at their stations. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of machines. Everyone knew something important was happening. "Open a channel to the alien vessel," Yoona said. "I want to send a reply." The young officer at the console looked nervous. "Director, should we not wait for instructions from Earth governments?" Yoona shook her head. "I have authority here. The governments will be informed, but they gave EOC the power to handle first contact. This is what we trained for." She began to dictate her message. It was calm and professional. It thanked the Velori Collective for their communication. It acknowledged their presence in Earth's solar system. Then it politely declined their offer of protection. But there was more. Yoona included information that would surprise the aliens. Detailed data about their ship, accurate numbers about their weapons and engines, things that a primitive species should not know, things that showed Earth had been watching the stars more carefully than anyone realized. The message ended with a simple proposal: mutual respect, non-interference, 2 equals meeting in the darkness of space. Tae-ho read the message before it was sent. He whistled softly. "This will either save us or doom us." "Maybe both," Yoona replied. "Send it." The signal traveled through space at the speed of light. It reached the alien ship in seconds. Commander Relos was old by Velori standards. He had lived for 300 years and had made first contact with dozens of primitive species. He knew how these things worked. Young species were always afraid. They always accepted protection. They had no other option. He sat in his command chair aboard the cruiser Ascendant Grace. The ship was massive, bigger than any human building. It carried weapons that could turn cities to ash. Relos had never needed to use them against primitive species. The threat was always enough. His aide, Tema, brought him the human reply. Relos expected to read the usual words of submission. He expected fear and gratitude. What he read was something else entirely. His 4 eyes blinked slowly as he processed the information. The humans knew about Velori weapons. They knew the exact energy output of the ship's engines. They knew things that only a species with advanced technology could know. And they were not afraid. "This is impossible," Tema said. Her voice was high and sharp. "Our scans showed a divided species. They fight among themselves. They have barely reached their own moon." Relos said nothing. He read the message again. The humans were not begging for protection. They were offering terms, equal terms, as if they had every right to negotiate with the collective. In 300 years, Relos had never seen anything like this. "Commander," Tema said, "what do we do?" Relos leaned back in his chair. Outside the window, the blue planet turned slowly in the darkness. It looked so small, so fragile, but something about it made him uneasy. "We wait," he said finally. "We learn more about these humans, because something is very wrong here." Back on EOC, Una Park watched her screen. The alien ship had stopped moving toward Earth. It was just sitting there in the outer part of the solar system. Tiho stood beside her. "They received our message." "Yes. And they are not attacking." "No, they are thinking." Una allowed herself a small smile. "Good, let them think. Let them wonder what else we know." She turned to face her team. These were the best people Earth had. Scientists, soldiers, diplomats. They had prepared for this moment in secret for decades. "This is just the beginning," Una said. "The real test comes next. Everyone get ready, we have work to do." Above them, the stars continued to shine, but they were no longer silent, and humanity was no longer alone. The game had begun. 3 days passed after Earth sent its reply. The alien ship did not move. It did not attack. It just stayed there, floating in the dark, watching. On the Ascendant Grace, Commander Relos had not slept. Sleep was a luxury he could not afford. Something about the humans bothered him, like a splinter in his mind that he could not remove. He called his senior officers to the war room. The space was large, with curved walls covered in screens showing maps and data. 12 Velori stood around a central table, their long gray bodies still and tense. "Report," Relos said. Tema stepped forward. She had been analyzing the human message for days. "Commander, we have verified the data the humans sent us. It is accurate. They know the exact specifications of our weapons systems. They know our engine output within a margin of 2%. The room was silent. Every officer understood what this meant. "How is this possible?" asked one of the tactical officers. "Their planet shows no signs of advanced space technology. Their ships are small and primitive. They should know nothing about us." Relos raised one of his 4 arms. "That is the question, is it not? Either they have spies within the collective, which is impossible, or they have technology we cannot detect, which should also be impossible." He ordered a deep scan of the entire solar system, not a standard scan, the most powerful sensors the ship had. The results came back in 6 hours. What they showed changed everything. Hidden in the asteroid belt there were installations, small, dark, hard to see. They did not broadcast any signals. They did not move, but they were there, dozens of them. Near the moons of Jupiter there were 3 large structures. The sensors could barely see them. They were built to hide from exactly this kind of scan. If the Velori had not been looking so hard, they would have missed them completely. "What are those?" Tema asked, pointing at the Jupiter structures. Rilot studied the images. His stomach felt cold. "I do not know, but they are big, very big, and they have been there for a long time." The humans had been preparing, quietly, secretly, for years, maybe decades. While they fought their small wars on Earth, while they seemed divided and weak, they had been building something in the darkness. It was a trap waiting to be sprung. Back on EOC, Director Una Park held a meeting with Earth's leaders. The communication was instant, using quantum links that could not be hacked. Presidents, prime ministers, and generals appeared on screens around the conference room. Una explained the situation clearly. The aliens had stopped. They were scanning the solar system. They would soon learn about Earth's hidden defenses. "Let them learn," said the President of the United States. "That was always the plan." Una nodded. "Yes, we wanted them to see. We wanted them to understand that Earth is not easy prey, but now we must decide what comes next." The discussion lasted for hours. Some leaders wanted to attack first. Others wanted to negotiate. A few wanted to surrender and accept the alien offer, hoping it would not be as bad as it seemed. In the end, they voted. The result was clear. Earth would stand firm. Earth would not attack first, but Earth would not submit. Minyu Kang was only 28 years old. He was the youngest tactical analyst at EOC. He had grown up reading stories about aliens and space battles. Now he was living one. His job was to study the alien ship and find weaknesses. He worked 18 hours a day, barely eating, barely sleeping. His eyes hurt from staring at screens, but he did not stop. What he found was both scary and hopeful. The Velori ship was powerful. Its weapons could destroy cities. Its shields could stop almost any attack. In a straight fight, it would win against anything Earth had. But it was not fast. Its sensors, while good, had limits, and it was alone. Minyu brought his findings to Director Park. "They sent one ship," he said, "just one, for a first contact mission. That means they did not expect any trouble. They thought we would just surrender." Una studied his report. "And now they know we will not surrender. What will they do?" "They have two choices. They can leave and come back with a bigger fleet, or they can test us. Push a little, see how we react." "I think they will test us," Una said. "The commander of that ship wants to understand us before he reports to his leaders. He is curious." She was right. While the humans talked, Dr. Sara Lee worked on a different problem. She was a xenolinguist, an expert in alien languages. Even though she had never seen a real alien language before, she had trained for years with made-up ones. Now she had the real thing. The Velori message had layers. The main message was clear and easy to translate, but hidden in the signal there was other data, background information, references to history, mentions of other species. Sara spent 3 days pulling this data apart. What she found made her feel sick. The Velori Collective had contacted hundreds of species over thousands of years. They always made the same offer: protection in exchange for resources. The species that accepted slowly disappeared. First, they lost their culture. Then they lost their freedom. Then they lost their lives. The collective used them up and threw them away. Some species had tried to fight. Their planets were now dead rocks floating in space. Sara brought her findings to Director Park. Her hands were shaking as she gave her report. "They are not conquerors in the traditional sense," Sara explained. "They do not invade with armies. They absorb, they digest. Over generations, they erase everything that made a species unique, and then that species is gone." Una's face was hard as stone. "And if a species fights back?" "They have weapons that can crack planets. They have done it before. There are records hidden in their language files, warnings they give to new species, examples of what happens to those who resist." The room was silent for a long moment. "Then we cannot fight them directly," Yuna said finally. "And we cannot surrender to them. We must find a third way." She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Earth hung in space like a blue and white marble, so beautiful, so fragile. "We show them that we are different," Yuna said. "We show them that we are not easy prey, but we are also not stupid enough to attack without reason. We show them that humanity learned from its own dark history. We know what empires do. We have been empires, and we survived ourselves." She turned back to her team. "Prepare Project Sentinel, full activation, every platform, every weapon, every sensor. I want the Velori to see exactly what they are dealing with." Minyu looked up from his console. "Director, if we show them everything, we lose the element of surprise." "We already lost it," Yuna replied. "They know we are hiding something. Better to show them our strength than let them wonder about our weakness." She gave the order. Across the solar system, in places the Velori had not yet found, lights began to turn on. Weapons platforms that had floated dead and dark for decades came alive. Communication networks linked together. Defense stations powered up their shields. On the Ascendant Grace, Tema watched her sensors go crazy. New signals were appearing everywhere, hundreds of them, then thousands. "Commander," she whispered, "you need to see this." Reloz walked to her station. What he saw on the screen made him stop breathing. The humans had hidden an entire defense network in their solar system. It was not as advanced as collective technology, but it was massive. And it had been waiting there, silent and patient, like a predator in tall grass. "They knew," Reloz said softly. "They knew someone would come eventually, and they prepared." For the first time in 300 years, Commander Reloz felt something he had almost forgotten. Fear. He looked at the blue planet on his screen. Such a small world, such a strange species. They had every reason to hide, to run, to beg for mercy. Instead, they stood up and showed their teeth. Reloz did not know what to do next, and that uncertainty, more than anything else, told him that these humans were dangerous. The silence between the two species grew deeper, but it would not last much longer. The order came from far away. The Collective Council, the ruling body of 12 species, sat on a world thousands of light years from Earth. They had heard Commander Reloz's reports. They had seen the images of human defenses, and they were not happy. A message arrived on the Ascendant Grace. It was simple and direct. The humans must be tested. Send a scout ship. Push their borders. See if they really have the courage to fight or if their display of strength is just an act. Reloz read the message 3 times. He did not like it. Something in his gut told him this was a mistake, but he was a commander, not a counselor. He followed orders. He called Tema to his quarters. "Prepare the scout ship Quiet Wing, crew of 12. Send them toward the human outer perimeter. Tell them to ignore any warnings. Push until the humans respond." Tema hesitated. "Commander, if the humans fire on them?" "Then we will learn something important." Reloz turned away. "Go, do it." The Quiet Wing was small and fast. It left the Ascendant Grace and flew toward Saturn's orbit, where human sensors were thickest. The pilot was young and confident. He had never failed a mission before. He would not complete this one either. On Titan, the largest moon of Saturn, there was a human outpost. It was called Titan Outpost 7. From the outside, it looked like a simple research station, but underneath the ice, there were weapons. Railguns that could fire metal slugs at incredible speeds, missiles that could track and follow any target, and the people who controlled them. Lieutenant Woojin Beek was 28 years old. He had joined the Space Defense Force 5 years ago. He had trained for combat many times, but he had never faced a real enemy. None of them had. Earth had been at peace for decades. Now, sitting in his control room beneath Titan's frozen surface, Woojin watched an alien ship fly toward his position. His heart beat so hard he could hear it in his ears. "Contact confirmed," said his sensor operator, a young woman named Jimin. "One Velori scout ship. Current speed suggests intercept of our perimeter in 20 minutes." Wujin took a deep breath. He opened a channel to EOC. "Earth Orbital Control, this is Titan Outpost 7. We have incoming, requesting instructions." Director Yuna Park's voice came through the speaker. She sounded calm, always calm. "Lieutenant Beak, you are authorized to defend our territory. Warn them once. Give them a chance to turn back. If they ignore the warning, disable their ship. Do not destroy it. I repeat, do not destroy it. We want them alive." "Understood, Director." Wujin ended the call. His hands were shaking. He looked at Jimin and his other officers. They were all young. They were all scared, but they were also ready. "Open a channel to the alien ship," Wujin said. "All languages, make sure they understand." The message went out. It was polite but firm. This was human territory. The alien ship must turn back. Any further approach would be treated as a hostile act. The quiet wing did not turn back. Wujin watched the ship on his screen. It kept coming, closer and closer. The pilot was calling their bluff. "They are not stopping," Jimin said. Her voice was tight. "I see it." Wujin's finger hovered over the firing control. He thought about his family back on Earth, his mother in Seoul, his younger sister who wanted to be a doctor. Would they be proud of him? Would they understand? The alien ship crossed the line. "Weapons free," Wujin said. "Target their engine, one shot." The railgun fired. It was silent in space. A metal slug, no bigger than a fist, flew through the darkness at 20 kilometers per second. It hit the quiet wing's engine exactly where Wujin aimed. The alien ship spun out of control. Its engine died. Power flickered across its hull, but the ship was intact. The crew was alive. On the Ascendant Grace, Tema stared at her screen in disbelief. The whole thing had taken less than 3 seconds. The humans had detected the scout, tracked it, aimed, and fired with perfect precision. And they had chosen not to kill. "Commander," she said, "the quiet wing is disabled. Crew is alive but unable to move. They are requesting rescue." Reloz sat very still. His mind was working fast. The humans had shown 2 things at once. First, they had the skill to destroy the scout ship completely. Their aim was perfect. Their weapons were fast. Second, they had chosen mercy. They had hurt but not killed. This was not the behavior of a primitive species. This was the behavior of a species that had fought many wars and learned that killing was not always the answer. This was wisdom, and it terrified Reloz more than any weapon. "Rescue the crew," he ordered quietly, "and prepare a message for the human leadership. I wish to talk." But before he could send his message, a new signal arrived from Earth. Director Park had anticipated him. Her message was already waiting. It was an invitation. One human diplomat would meet Commander Reloz at a neutral location. No weapons, no tricks, just 2 people talking face to face. The message was signed by Ambassador Junho Cha. Reloz read the name. He did not know this human, but he would soon. Back on Earth, Ambassador Junho Cha prepared for the most important meeting in human history. He was 61 years old. His hair was white. His face was lined with age. He had spent his entire life talking to enemies and turning them into friends, or at least into people who would not kill him. He had negotiated peace treaties between nations that had fought for centuries. He had walked into rooms where everyone wanted him dead and walked out with agreements that saved millions of lives. He was good at his job because he understood one simple truth: everyone wants something. Find what they want, and you can find a path forward. But this was different. This was not human versus human. This was human versus something completely unknown. The old rules might not apply. Junho sat in his office in Geneva and read everything the scientists had learned about the Velori, their biology, their history, their culture. He studied their language patterns and their social structures. He learned how they thought and what they valued. And slowly, he began to see a path. The Velori respected strength. They had built an empire by conquering the weak, but they also respected survival. Any species that lasted long enough to build a civilization earned some measure of respect in their eyes. Humanity was weak by Velori standards. Their technology was primitive. Their ships were slow, but humanity had survived. They had survived wars with each other. They had survived diseases and disasters. They had survived their own worst impulses. That survival meant something. Junho would make sure the Velori understood it. He called Director Park. "I am ready." "Are you sure?" she asked. "You will be alone. If something goes wrong, we cannot protect you." Junho smiled. It was a tired smile, but real. "I have been in dangerous rooms before. This is just a bigger room. The fate of our entire species depends on this meeting." "Yes," Junho nodded slowly. "It does. And that is why I must go. Some conversations cannot happen through screens and signals. They must happen face to face, breath to breath. The Velori need to look at a human and see something more than data on a screen. They need to see who we really are." 3 days later, Junho boarded a small shuttle and flew into the darkness of space. His destination was a tiny station that human engineers had built in just 72 hours. It floated in the asteroid belt, far from both Earth and the Velori ship. Neutral ground. Junho sat alone in the shuttle, watching the stars pass by. He thought about his wife, who had died 5 years ago. She had always believed that humans were capable of great things. She had always believed that they could learn, could grow, could become better. He hoped she was right. The station appeared on his screen, a small metal box floating in the endless black. Inside, the Velori commander was waiting. Junho took a deep breath. He checked his suit. He straightened his shoulders. Then he walked into the future. Whatever happened next, everything would change. He was sure of that. The only question was whether the change would be good or bad, whether humanity would survive this meeting or be marked for destruction. Junho did not know the answer, but he was ready to find out. He opened the airlock door and stepped inside. The station was cold and gray. Metal walls surrounded a small room with 2 chairs and a table, nothing else. No decorations, no windows, no comfort. This was not a place for friendship. This was a place for business. Ambassador Junho Cha stood on one side of the room. He had removed his helmet. The air was thin but breathable. Human engineers had tested it 3 times to make sure. On the other side, a door opened. Commander Relos entered with 12 guards behind him. They were tall creatures, gray-skinned, with 4 arms and 4 eyes. Each guard carried a weapon that glowed with soft purple light. They moved like soldiers, careful and ready for danger. Junho did not move. He did not show fear. He had learned long ago that fear was a language everyone understood. Show it, and you lose before the conversation begins. Relos stopped a few meters away. His 4 eyes studied the human. This was the first time he had seen one in person. They were smaller than he expected, softer. They looked breakable. But looks could deceive. "You came alone," Relos said. His voice was deep and rough, translated by a small device on his chest. "Either you are very brave or very stupid." Junho smiled. "Perhaps both, but I think you will find that humans often are." Relos made a sound that might have been a laugh. He waved his guards to step back and sat down in one of the chairs. The metal bent slightly under his weight. Junho sat across from him. The table between them was empty. No papers, no screens, just 2 beings from different worlds trying to understand each other. "Your species confuses me," Relos said. "Our scans showed a divided planet, wars, hunger, suffering. You fight among yourselves like animals. Yet here you are with hidden weapons and defense networks. You threaten us while smiling. You show mercy to our ships while preparing for war. I do not understand you." Junho nodded slowly. That is fair, we are confusing. We confuse ourselves sometimes, but let me try to explain. He leaned forward slightly. His old bones ached from the long journey, but his mind was sharp. This was the moment everything depended on. Humans are young, Junho began. Your records probably show that we have only had civilization for a few thousand years, a blink of an eye compared to the collective. We made many mistakes. We killed each other over land, over resources, over ideas. We built weapons that could destroy our entire planet, and we came very close to using them. Reloz listened without speaking. His four eyes never left the human's face. But we survived, Junho continued. We survived our own cruelty, we survived our own stupidity, and in surviving we learned something important. We learned that the greatest enemy is not outside, it is inside. It is the part of us that wants to dominate, to destroy, to take without giving. We spent centuries fighting that enemy, and we are still fighting it today. Pretty words, Reloz said, but words do not stop weapons. Your species is weak. The collective has conquered hundreds of worlds. What makes you think you can resist? Junho's eyes grew hard. His voice dropped. We know what empire looks like, Commander. We have been empires. We have conquered. We have enslaved. We have done terrible things to each other. And we have seen what that darkness does to both the conqueror and the conquered. It destroys them both. Slowly, completely. He paused to let the words sink in. You came here expecting prey. You found something else. You found a species that has already faced monsters. We were the monsters, and we survived ourselves. Do you understand what that means? Reloz was silent. His forearms were folded across his chest. It means we know the cost of war, Junho said. We know what it takes to destroy another people. We know what it takes to rebuild after destruction. And we know that there is another way, a harder way, but a better way. Cooperation, Reloz said. The word sounded strange in his mouth. You think you can cooperate with the collective? I think I can cooperate with you. Junho pointed at the commander. You, the being sitting across from me, not the collective, not the council, you, because I see something in your eyes that tells me you are not certain this is the right path. I see doubt, and doubt is the beginning of wisdom. Reloz did not deny it. He could not. The human was right. For weeks, Reloz had felt something wrong about this mission. The humans were not behaving like prey. They were behaving like equals. And part of him, a small part that he had ignored for centuries, wondered if they might actually be equals. Junho reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. Reloz's guards tensed, but the human moved slowly, showing it was not a weapon. This contains information, Junho said. Everything we know about our own capabilities, our defense platforms, our ships, our weapons. I am giving it to you freely. Reloz blinked. Why would you do that? Because secrets are the enemy of trust. You already know most of this information. We showed you. But now I am giving it to you directly as a gesture. We have nothing to hide. We are not trying to trick you. We are simply telling you the truth. We can defend ourselves. We will defend ourselves, but we do not want war. He placed the device on the table between them. Take it, show it to your council. Let them see what they would face if they tried to conquer Earth, and let them see something else. Let them see that we chose to share this information instead of hiding it. Let them see that we chose trust over fear. Reloz stared at the device. His mind was spinning with possibilities. Your council has conquered many worlds, Junho continued. But have they ever met a species like us? A species that survived itself? A species that built weapons hoping never to use them? A species that showed mercy when they had every reason to destroy? He leaned back in his chair. We are offering you something your collective has never seen before. A true partnership. Not master and servant. Not conqueror and conquered. Two equals meeting in the darkness of space, choosing to walk together instead of fighting. Reloz's four eyes narrowed. And if we refuse? Junho's face did not change. Then we will fight, we will lose probably. Your technology is more advanced. Your ships are stronger, but we will not go quietly. We will make it cost you. Every ship you send, we will destroy. Every victory you win, we will make you pay for in blood, and even if you conquer us completely, we will never stop fighting. Never, because that is who we are. We do not surrender, we do not give up. We adapt, we survive, and we keep going. He smiled, but there was no humor in it. The question is not whether you can destroy us. The question is whether it is worth it. Because I promise you, Commander, we will make it very, very expensive. The room was silent. Reloz could hear his own heartbeat. He had lived for 300 years. He had conquered dozens of worlds, but he had never met anyone like this human. "Why do you not hate us?" Reloz asked suddenly. "We came to conquer you. We threatened your entire species. Why do you sit here and talk to me like I am a friend?" Junho thought for a moment. "Because hate is easy, understanding is hard. I choose hard things. And because I believe that you, Commander Reloz, are not evil. You are doing what you were taught to do. You are following the rules of a game that was set up long before you were born. But games can change. Rules can be rewritten, if you want them to be." Reloz looked at the device on the table. Then he looked at the human. "I will take your information to the council," he said slowly. "I will tell them what I have seen here. I will tell them that these humans are not prey. They are something new, something we have not faced before." "And what will you recommend?" Junho asked. Reloz was quiet for a long moment. Then, for the first time, he smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible, but it was real. "I will recommend caution," he said. "I will recommend that we watch and wait and learn. Because I think you are right, human. I think you are something different. And I want to understand what you are before I decide whether to destroy you or befriend you." Junho stood and extended his hand. It was a human gesture of peace. Reloz had read about it in the data files. Slowly, carefully, the commander reached out one of his 4 arms and took the human's hand. Their fingers touched, 2 species, 2 worlds, 1 moment. "We have a saying on Earth," Junho said. "The enemy of my enemy is my friend, but I prefer a different saying. The stranger I understand is no longer a stranger. They are just someone I have not met yet." Reloz held the handshake for a moment longer. Then he released it and stood. "I will see you again, Ambassador." "I hope so, Commander. I truly hope so." Reloz gathered his guards and walked toward the door. At the entrance, he stopped and looked back. "Your species is strange," he said, "but perhaps strange is what the universe needs." Then he was gone. Junho stood alone in the cold gray room. His legs were shaking. His heart was pounding, but he was smiling. He had done it. He had made the Valori pause. He had given humanity a chance. Now everything depended on what came next. 6 months passed after the meeting in the asteroid belt. 6 months of waiting, watching, and hopping. 6 months of wondering if the next message from the stars would bring peace or war. Commander Reloz had returned to the Valori homeworld to speak before the collective council. 12 species sat in judgment, listening to his report. He told them everything: the hidden defenses, the precise weapons, the mercy shown to the scout ship, the human ambassador who spoke of survival and wisdom and choosing hard things. The council debated for weeks. Some wanted to destroy Earth immediately. The humans were dangerous, they said. A threat that would only grow stronger with time. Better to end them now while the collective still had the advantage. Others disagreed. The humans had shown something no other species had ever shown before. They had the power to kill but chose not to. They had the ability to hide but chose to reveal. This was not weakness. This was strength of a different kind. In the end, the council voted. The decision shocked everyone who heard it. For the first time in collective history, a new species would be recognized as a sovereign power. Earth would not be absorbed. Earth would not be conquered. Earth would be treated as an equal. It was not friendship, Not yet, but it was respect, and respect was a beginning. On Earth, the news arrived through quantum channels. Director Una Park read the message 3 times to make sure she understood it correctly. Then she allowed herself something she had not done in months. She cried. The tears came quietly, rolling down her cheeks as she sat alone in her office at EOC. 52 years of preparation, decades of building in secret, countless nights of wondering if humanity would survive the first contact. And they had. She wiped her eyes and straightened her uniform. There was still work to do. The galaxy was vast, and not every species would be as reasonable as the Velori had become. Humanity needed to stay strong, stay ready, stay united. But for this moment, for this one brief moment, she allowed herself to feel relief. The celebrations on Earth were quiet. People gathered in parks and public spaces, watching the sky. Some laughed, some cried, some held hands with strangers and said nothing at all. Everyone knew that the world had changed forever. Minyu Kang stood on the observation deck of EOC, watching the blue planet rotate below. He was no longer just a tactical analyst. Director Park had promoted him. He would lead a new division focused on first contact protocols. A lot of responsibility for someone so young, his colleague had joked. Minyu did not feel young anymore. The past 6 months had aged him in ways he could not explain. He had stared at alien ships and calculated ways to destroy them. He had prepared for a war that might end everything. That kind of experience changed a person. But he was ready. His generation would inherit this new universe. They would be the ones to build bridges with alien species, to explore distant stars, to carry humanity's message into the darkness. He hoped he was worthy of that task. Dr. Sora Lee returned to her university in Seoul. Her research on the Velori language had made her famous. Scientists around the world wanted to work with her. Governments offered her positions. Media outlets asked for interviews. She turned most of them down. What she wanted was simple. She wanted to keep studying, keep learning, keep understanding. The Velori were just one species among many. There were 11 others in the collective. And beyond the collective, who knew how many more? Each species had its own language, its own culture, its own way of seeing the universe. Sora wanted to learn them all, not to conquer or control, but simply to understand. That was her gift to humanity, understanding. She started writing a book. It was a guide for future diplomats and linguists, explaining how to approach alien species with respect and curiosity. She titled it Words Across the Stars. It would take her 5 years to finish, but it would be worth it. Lieutenant Woojin Beek received a medal for his actions at Titan Outpost 7. The ceremony was small, held at a military base in South Korea. His mother and sister were there, along with a few dozen officers and officials. The general who gave him the medal made a speech about bravery and precision and duty. Woojin barely heard it. He was thinking about the shot he had fired, the alien ship spinning in the darkness, the lives he had spared. He had been trained to kill, but in the moment that mattered most, he had chosen something else. After the ceremony, his mother hugged him tightly. "I do not understand everything you did," she said, "but I know you did the right thing." Woojin nodded. "I hope so, I really hope so." He went back to work at Titan Outpost. Someone had to watch the outer solar system. Someone had to be ready if things changed. He did not mind the lonely post. It gave him time to think. Late at night, when his shift was over, he would look out at Saturn and its rings. He would think about the aliens out there, watching them the same way he watched the sky. 2 species, 2 worlds, both trying to understand each other. It was strange, but maybe strange was the point. Ambassador Junho Cha went home. He took a transport from Geneva to Seoul, then a car to Busan. The city of his childhood spread out before him, glittering with lights. It had changed so much since he was young, but some things remained the same. The mountains, the sea, the the smell of salt and fish and rain. He walked to a small cemetery on a hill overlooking the harbor. His wife was buried there. She had died 5 years ago, suddenly, from a disease that struck without warning. Junho had not recovered from the loss. He probably never would. He sat beside her grave and talked to her. He told her everything. The alien ship, the negotiations, the meeting with Commander Relos, the decision that had saved humanity from war. "We did it," he said softly. "We met the stars and we did not lose ourselves. We stayed who we are, flawed and messy and afraid, but also brave and stubborn and hopeful. We showed them that humanity is worth knowing, worth respecting." He paused, looking at the sky. The sun was setting, painting the clouds with orange and pink. "I wish you could have seen it. You always believed we could be better. You always said that our worst moments were not our truest moments, that our best moments were what defined us." He wiped a tear from his eye. "You were right, you were always right." He stayed until the stars came out. Then he walked home, his heart heavy but peaceful. Commander Relos was reassigned. The Collective Council decided that he would serve as their first envoy to Earth, a diplomat, not a conqueror. It was a strange new role for someone who had spent 3 centuries as a warrior. But Relos did not complain. He had seen something in that meeting room in the asteroid belt. He had seen a species that chose wisdom over war, mercy over destruction. He wanted to understand them better. His ship arrived in Earth orbit 3 months after the treaty was signed. He was greeted by Director Una Park and a delegation of human leaders. The meeting was formal and polite. Cameras broadcasted across the planet. But later, after the ceremony ended, Relos asked to send a private message to Director Park. She agreed, and a few hours later she read his words on her personal screen. The message was short. It contained a single phrase in the Velori language, a phrase that had no direct translation in any human tongue. Relos had tried to explain it during their earlier communications. It was a concept that meant something like worthy opponent and potential friend, and equal in spirit all at once. The Velori used it rarely. They reserved it for species that had earned their deepest respect. Una read the message and smiled. She typed a reply in Korean, which her computer translated into Velori. "Thank you. We look forward to learning from each other." Then she turned back to her work. There was always more to do. Deep in the outer solar system, far from the warmth of Earth, the lights of Project Sentinel continued to glow. Defense platforms drifted in patient orbits. Weapons remained ready but silent. Sensors watched the empty spaces between worlds. Humanity had built these defenses hoping they would never need them. Now that hope had been rewarded, but the platforms remained active, because the universe was vast and full of unknowns. Other species would come eventually. Some might be friends, some might be enemies. Humanity would meet them all, one at a time, with open hands and watchful eyes. The stars had been silent for so long. Now they were full of voices, speaking languages humanity was just beginning to learn. There would be challenges ahead, mistakes, struggles, perhaps even wars. But for now, on this day, at this moment, humanity had done something remarkable. They had met an ancient empire and stood as equals. They had shown that strength and mercy could exist together. They had proven that the scars of their own history had made them stronger, not weaker. The dawn was just beginning, and humanity was ready to meet it. Above Earth, the sun rose over the Pacific Ocean, painting the clouds with gold. Below, billions of people started a new day, knowing that everything had changed. They were not alone anymore. And that was okay.